let's talk about the um, the process by which engineering has come into agriculture, right? So from my research, I see that India is largely a small and marginal landholding farming nation, whereas even a China or a a US certainly is in a completely different league, are very different. So we are in no position to import the farming technology from a US or Australia or a Canada into India. We have to have our own agricultural engineering. Please tell us a little bit about the way agricultural engineering, or your view of where agricultural engineering is set up in India, and what do you see as the as the changes that you think we should make to that system of educating agricultural engineers?
Okay, I'm an agricultural economist, but I'll take on engineering. You're very right that the average size of a operational holding, or the plot on which a crop is cultivated in India, is 1 hectare. That is 2.5 acres, which I was told is about 2.5 football fields, for a reference. Whereas it is 1,000 hectares in the US. And there are huge machines. So we can't have the same kind of technology. Having said that, it may surprise you to know that in almost all of India, perhaps not on some mountain slopes or some other kind of a few difficult terrains or some tribal hamlets, ploughing is done by tractors. It is almost universal in India now. So when you have a technology which has been developed, which can be done suitable, then it is adopted very easily. So I don't think there is anything, even the farmer who has 1 hectare or less is ready to take on the new technology if it is available, if it is cost effective. So I would say that designing machinery, designing equipment to operate on small fields, not just small fields, but if anybody has been to a village and you know how land is divided in India across over generations and bought and sold, somebody may have one little triangular plot in one corner of the village and have another plot somewhere else. It's not even consolidated. This is a big problem, I think, in many parts of India, what we call land consolidation, that people will not exchange land and say, okay, I keep this plot and you keep that one. Is that even now with the latest drone technology which is being used, and drones are being used for fertilizer application, for pesticide application, so that it can be more precise and it can go over the field and have the exact location. It's the fields of different farmers are sort of just almost, how can I describe it, crisscrossing, fragmented. And so you would have to design the area at which the drone operates in a little different way. The square meter or the square inch that it would have to take as its unit. As you can see, I'm not a technologist, so I don't know the details. The other thing which is very important, I think, and that's something that has concerned me for a long time, is equipment and machinery for women to operate. And one of the areas of my research for many years has been women's work. And we can see that in India, as the economy develops, many young men are leaving the villages to come to the cities for work, in search of work. And more, women were always in agriculture. Women domesticated agriculture while men were out hunting. That was, millions of years ago. But more and more women are engaged in agriculture. Now, do we have tractors that are suitable for women to drive? Do we have the right kind of equipment? Is that sprayer too heavy to carry on your shoulder? So I think we have to not only think of machinery which suits our operational holdings, but we have to think of who's going to operate that machine.
It's a wonderful point. I think, when That's a fantastic point. When we say the word farmer, we have a gender bias built in all our minds, and you are breaking that gender bias. That increasingly we are seeing women come into farming. And what are the other challenges around women coming into farming? You talked of, a few. Are there other societal challenges and implications to this change that you're pointing us to?
Yes, there are, because even now we find that while women are actually involved in different stages of agriculture, they're involved in transplanting rice. You see these photographs of women standing in water. They're involved in processing it at home afterwards, in drying, in taking it to the market, in animal care, husbandry, in milking cows. Women play a very important role in animal husbandry, in fisheries. Once the fish is brought from the sea, it's largely still men who go to sea, but once it's brought, it's the women who are cleaning and processing and marketing. So women are playing very many roles, but I think in terms of their educational relative deprivation, in terms of informational deprivation. And I would like to give an example here. We have one of the new forms of technology that's very, very important in agriculture is, of course, digital technologies and the use of information and communication tools. And one of the studies done by the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, this was about a decade ago, found that women preferred voice messages, because in those days, it was still the old phones, and you had SMS sending information on agriculture through voice messages, because they would listen to these messages when the phone was with the man, when the husband or the son, came home, and when they were cooking. That was the time they got. So while they're chopping their vegetables, they listen to the voice messages, which were to do with agriculture, with poultry farming, with soil conservation, with many other activities. So even the time when you can reach women may be different. If you say my news broadcast is at 10 a.m. and they're busy, feeding their children, they won't be able to hear that news broadcast. So the timing, the technology, how you reach them, these are all questions that have to be built into the design of that technology. And of course, we've moved now from phone SMSs to tablets and other things. But I'm saying this is a problem that would apply to any technology. And this is an example of having to take account of women's needs. And I must also add here that in terms of resources, women, but in most of the land in India is not in women's name, it's in men's name. Mobile phone ownership is very widespread in India, but it's still largely in male hands. So when you say a family or a household has a phone, but in whose pocket is it? So the other persons may only get access to it at certain times of the day or certain occasions. So I think this inequality in access to resources, that's a bigger issue, and that's an issue beyond the scientist and the researcher. That's a policy issue, but that has to be combined with the scientific or technological innovation that is proposed.
Sure. I think this whole change that I just learned of, that there's an increasing fraction of farmers that are women, and that's going to be the workforce of the future, to take us towards complete food security. Clearly, we need to sort of change our thinking and make sure we are far more gender balanced in the additive technologies that will come on board to help the farmer.